steps can be also done for Windows and Linux as well. So first of all, we need to make sure that we have Docker. And so let's go to, let's look for Docker download, and we click on the first link, and I have already downloaded Docker. So if you didn't, please download it from here. And once you download, make sure you install it. And to make sure that it's running, you will be able to see on the top right hand side on your bar that you have the Docker icon, as well as you can see it's running here. So once we download and install Docker, the second step is to download the .NET SDK. So in order to do that, we'll look for the .NET SDK, and we'll go to the first link here. As well, we can see that at this moment in time, on the 1st of Jan 2021, we have .NET 5.0, and we have the .NET Core 3.1. What are we gonna use? We're gonna use the 5.0 one. I have already downloaded it, so please download it as well based on your own OS. Once this is finished, we'll be able to install, and we'll take it from there. So now it's downloaded, and as I mentioned before, I have already installed it locally on my machine. The third tool that we need is Visual Studio Code. So we're gonna go to Google and type look for Visual Studio Code. Studio Code, and we're gonna click on the first link here, and we'll download it for Mac. Similar, if you have Windows or Linux, you can also download it from here. Once this is downloaded, we need to make sure, first of all, if .NET is running properly as it should. So in order to do that, we'll open our terminal. The easy way to get it in Mac OS is to click on Command Spacebar. We'll get the Spotlight search, and we'll type terminal, and the terminal will pop up. So in order for us to check if .NET is installed, all we need to write is .NET dash version, and sorry, it's dash version, and we are able to see that we have .NET version 5 installed locally on our machines. So once we have all of this set and ready, and we have Visual Studio Code installed, we have Docker installed, and .NET installed, what are we gonna do now is we're gonna create a sample web application, make sure it's running locally. After that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a Docker file, add all of the Docker commands on it. We're gonna create an image, run it locally, and configure the ports within the Docker image, and after that, we'll run it and make sure that everything is working as it should be. So in order for us to create a sample .NET application, we're going to be using the terminal, and we're going to be using the .NET new keywords. So in order to do that, we'll type .NET. Let's clear the terminal, clear. We'll type .NET, and we're going to use the new keyword because we're initiating a new project. If we want more information about that, you can go to Google to type .NET new, and as you can see here, Microsoft has a really good information and tutorials on how we can use the .NET new keywords and all of the functionality that it gives us. So for our case right now, we're gonna build an MVC application. We're gonna give it a name. We're gonna call it sample web with Docker. We're gonna specify which language. You don't really need to do that, but I like to do it in order to be more consistent. So this is gonna be a C# application. And finally, we're not gonna use any authentication because it's a very simple web application. So once we write this, I just also want to mention that all of these commands that we're seeing right now, I'll be sharing them in the description of the video. So let's click enter, and we can see that the .NET SDK has created application for us. So if you want to get a check, we're going to click ls. We can see that the application has been created. And now we can open Visual Studio Code. And once we open Visual Studio Code, we are able to see that the application has been created successfully for us. So first thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that the application itself it's built successfully and it runs. So in order to do that, we'll open the terminal. You can click on Control tilde, or you can go here to the view and select terminal, and it will automatically show. So in order for us to build a project, we need to go inside the folder. So we go cd sample, and then we type .NET build. This can take a few seconds to complete. As you can see, build has succeeded. And now let's run the application. We'll go to .NET run. And we can see that the application is running currently on port 5001 for HTTPS. So for us to test it, let's go to our browser. We'll go here to localhost. We'll go to 5001. So we go to port 5000 to automatically redirect us to the 5001. So as we can see currently that the application is running smoothly and as it should be. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code. Let's do some small change to make sure that it's running. So let's go to the views, and within home on the index page, let's add welcome or to this sample video. And as every developer does, we'll add the nice hello world command. So we'll do as simple as hello world. We'll save it, and then we'll run the application again by typing .NET run. And once it's finished running, as we can see, it's also running again on port 5001 over HTTPS. We go to Chrome and we refresh this page, and we can see welcome to this sample video as well as the hello world. So for now, we are sure that the application is running as it should be. So our next step is we need to add the Docker file. So before we do that, as we know, as we saw also here, that since we're running this in locally, we're using Kestrel in order for us to run the application. So once we type .NET run and the application is running, Kestrel will automatically assign the 5001 port to our application. So in order for us to have a more consistent port, let's go to the program.cs, and under the create host builder, let's type web builder. We'll use the use URL keyword, so use URLs, and basically we're gonna specify here that we want the application to use port 80. So in order to do that, all we need to do is type http // we'll give, so no matter what is the domain, and we'll assign it to port 80. And we click on save. We can either go to file, save, or we can press on Command S on the keyboard. So now if we type .NET run, it's running right now from here, as you can see, on port 80. And if we go to the web browser and we type localhost, the application should run automatically on port 80. So now the step that we need to do currently is we need to add the Docker file. So in order to do that, we can just right click, add new file, and we'll call it Docker file. we need to make sure that the D in Docker file is capital and all of the rest are lower letter. So lowercase. So the D is always uppercase and the rest is always lowercase. So Docker file. Okay. So as we can see, Visual Studio has recognizes it and it added the whale icon next to the Docker file. So right now, in order for us to utilize this Docker file, we need to add some commands. So what I'm gonna do as well, I'm gonna add comments on top of every line of code that we write in order to know what exactly is going on. And once it's finished, I'll be sharing it on the public GitHub account, and you'll find the link in the description below. So first of all, what we need to do is we need to get a base image. So what is a base image? A base image is the foundation that our container is going to be running on. So basically, we're gonna take an image from Docker Hub, which has already all of the .NET SDK configuration built in onto on it, and we're gonna build on top of that. So how are we gonna find this image and the the commands for it? So basically, what we're gonna do is first of all, we're gonna go to our web browser. We're gonna go to Docker Hub. If you're not logged in, you need to log in. So let me log in. Okay, so let me get this here. Okay, so I'm already logged in here. I'm gonna look for .NET. So I can just within the search bar, I can type .NET, type enter, and there's gonna be a lot uh, of images. So in order for us to narrow it down, we can type .NET SDK. So let's type .NET SDK, not quite SDK. You can see that this is the previous .NET Core because it has moved to the new one. So in order for this, we'll have to go to the most recent link. And as we can see here, this is the latest version of the .NET Core SDK. And from the description, we can see the link for the Docker image that we need. There's a lot of useful information that we can find here, as well as we can find different builds. So if we're aiming for Linux, for example, 32-bit, we can get the specific image for that, or 64-bit. So there's a lot of different images that are very helpful here, and depending on which use cases that we need to choose from this list here. But for our sample project, we're just gonna go with the default one, which is here, the mcr.microsoft.com/.net/SDK:5.0. So let's copy this one and we'll go back to Visual Studio and we'll start by the keyword from. From specify what's the link for the image that we want to pull from Docker Hub in order for us to build that image on top. So we just added the URL and we're telling Docker that, okay, please go to Docker Hub and pull down the SDK, .NET SDK 5.0. Once we do that, we're gonna give it a build or a reference. So we'll call this image is gonna be used as a building environment. After we do that, we need to specify something called a work directory. A work directory is where all of the commands and all of the logics gonna happen once we are building our Docker image. For this sample demonstration, we're gonna be using the /app. After that, what are we gonna do is we're gonna copy the CS file into our Docker image and then restore it. So similar, we add a command that we're gonna copy the CS and restore all of the NuGets. So in order to do that, we simply use the copy keyword because we don't really want to hard code the CS proj, so we'll put a star and then we give it the extension CS proj, and we're gonna copy it inside the app. So in order to do that, we'll put dot /. This will tell Docker that it needs to copy the CS proj into the root directory inside the build environment that we have given. After that, we're gonna run the basic command of .NET, which is gonna restoring all of those NuGet. So we'll type .NET and then we put restore. So right now, to recap, we got the image that we needed from Docker Hub. We gave it like a property as a build environment. We defined our work directory, and then we started by copying the main CS proj file from our local folder to this image, and then we ran the first command against it to restore all of the NuGet packages using the .NET restore command. After that, we need to copy all of our projects inside this environment, the build environment. In order to do that, let's add a command here first, copy everything else and build. So in order to do that, we just type the copy keyword, and then we put a dot telling it that telling Docker that we need to copy everything, and then we put dot /, so it will copy everything to the build environment, and then we run the .NET command to publish the application locally within that image. In order to do that, we use the run command, and then we type .NET publish, and then we use the C variable, and we want it in the release mode, and then we give it the output folder, which is going to be out. So after that, the final thing is we need to have a brand new image, and we just want to copy the output to that build environment. So first of all, let's add a command, which is going to be build the runtime image, and then it's going to be as simply as adding again from. We can copy this one instead of retyping it, copy, and then we're going to specify a work directory for this, and we're just going to call it app again. So this is going to be a different image from the build environment that we have specified earlier, and we're going to copy everything from the build environment to the new image that we have. So copy -- from build environment, and we're going to save it inside we're going to take the files from inside the app /out. So from the build environment, we're going to copy everything from inside the directory app /out, and then we're going to copy it to the root folder of the new environment that we have. And finally, we're just going to specify the entry point of the application. So once the image is running and it's become a container, what is the DLL that's going to be referencing it? So in order to do that, we're just going to put entry point, and then we'll put .NET, and then we have to specify the name of the DLL. So an easy way to do that is just to go to the bin folder and see what's the DLL name. So as we can see, it's sample web with docker.dll. So it has to be the same thing. So we put sample web with docker.dll, and as simple as that, we have right now a Docker file which is gonna run the application, and it's gonna build it locally inside of it. So in order for us to do that, first of all, let's build the application again, make sure that everything is still building as it should be. We'll put .NET build, it's running as it should be, and everything is working. So the next step that we need to do is we need to build the image. So we already checked that we have Docker running, and as we can see here, we have the green light, so Docker is running as it should be. So in order to do that, we need to use a simple Docker command. So first of all, we need to tell the terminal that we're going to be using Docker by typing the word Docker, and then we're going to build this image. So we'll have to use the build keyword, and we need to tag this image. So we need to give this image some kind of a tag in order for us to know what what's the name of it. So we'll put a T and we'll call it sample app, for example. And we put a dot at the end. This is really important to tell the command that it needs to look for the Docker file in the same directory that we are in. So once we click on enter, okay, oh sorry, the Docker file that I have created was outside this, so we need to move it inside and try again. Okay, that's great. So we can see right now Docker is working. It's going through the step one by one, and it's building the image. And as we can see at the end, the image has been created and it has been giving the name sample app. Just to refer back to the error before that I had. So basically what I did, I created the Docker file outside the application. So it needs to be inside the application in order for it to run. So once we did that, now we want to run the application to make sure that it's actually running and it's working as it should be. So if we go right now to if we want to run it, we just go to Docker. We give it the run keyword. We specify which port we want to connect to it. So let's connect to port 8081. And since we already specified the port for this application to be 80, we need to tell it it needs to connect to the 80 port. And then we specify the name of the image that we have, which is sample app, and then we click on enter. And now we can see that the image is automatically running within Docker. And if we go to our web application, and if we go to port local host, port 8081, and we click on enter, was it 8081 that we chose? Port 8081. I think let's try. I think I have another application which is running on port 8081. Let's put it 8082 and let's check it out. Oh, okay, so it's local host. So it was a typo. Port 8082, and now we can see it's running. So so right now, to summarize, what we did is we created a sample application. We added a Docker file and we created an image for that application and then we ran it. So let's say, for example, right now we want to add some stuff to our application. And let's go to home, again to index, and let's add, for example, a new paragraph. We say this is a new section of the application. And let's save this. So right now, if we just run the application normally, so if we type .NET build, make sure it's building, and then we type .NET run, and we go to port 80, to localhost on port 80, we can see that this new section of the application is showing and it's running as it should be. But if we go back and run the application again, the Docker image that we have created previously, and we go localhost on port 8082, we can see this section here, the new section that we have is not showing. Why? Because once we have built that image, it took a snapshot of the latest code up to that time and added it to the image. So everything else we added to our source code after creating the image, it wasn't added. So if we want to add the latest code to that image, we need to rebuild that image. So in order for us to rebuild, we'll go through the same process. It's going to be docker build We'll give it the same tag, which is going to be sample app, and we have to put the dot at the end of it. And right now we can see the Docker image is being labeled again. And once this is done, we can just run the application again on port 8082, and we can refresh this, and we can see that the new section has been added, and it has the latest code, the latest source code in the image. So this was a very simple introduction to .NET and Docker, and how we can run a .NET Core MVC application within a Docker image. Please feel free to share this video with anyone who might find it useful, and thank you very much for watching.